Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome once again to our webinar series. Today, we focus on the three-tier pensions contributions in Ghana. And with me today to lead the discussion is Patience Dogbo. Before I ask Patience to introduce herself, Social Security contribution by law is compulsory in Ghana. And in default, there are consequences to both employer and employee. Many employers and employees are not aware how the pension system is structured in Ghana. This leads to some undesired problems, mostly at the end of active working years of contributors. And it's become worrying problems for many pensioners. So today we look at the pensions through the payroll lens. And thank you very much for joining us today. If this is your first time joining our webinar series, we are grateful. And for those who have joined us in the previous webinar, we are equally grateful. And we hope that at the end of this session, you would have a better understanding of the pension systems in Ghana. Kindly note that your mics are muted to prevent any feedback in the course of the presentation. And if you have any question, you can post them in the Q&A box below. We would attend to all questions and comments at the end of the session. So let's move straight into action. Patience, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Amos.
Good. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Amos. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for making time to join this webinar. My name is Patience Dogbo. I'm a payroll advisor, and I've worked with the firm for 9 years and handle the payrolls of clients across various industries.
Okay, thank you for the brief introduction. The objective of this webinar, as I said earlier, is to share insight on the three-tier pensions structure and the types that we have in Ghana, and to discuss benefits to contributors and address some common errors employers make to contributions, and also share some good practice tips to improve compliance for employers. So let's move straight into action. Patience, when we talk of pensions, what are pensions contributions and what are the types of contributions we have in Ghana?
All right, Amos. Pension is a type of retirement plan where contributions are made towards a pool of funds set aside for employees' future benefits. There are 3 types of pension schemes which are regulated by the SNIT, that is Social Security and National Insurance Trust, and the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Now, the NPRA, that is the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, oversees the administration and management of registered pension schemes and trustees in Ghana. Now, under these 3-tier pension scheme, we have the tier 1, a mandatory monthly contribution managed by the SNIT authority. We have the tier 2, also a mandatory contribution managed by trustees registered under the NPRA. We also have the tier 3. That's a voluntary contribution, which is also managed by trustees registered under the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Yeah, those are the 3 types of pension schemes we have in Ghana.
Okay. All right, thank you, Patience. So many people are not even aware who qualifies to contribute to SNIT in Ghana. So can you tell us who qualifies to contribute to any of the schemes you highlighted, and what are the percentages towards these contributions?
All right, Amos. Any person within the ages of 15 to 45 qualifies to contribute to the scheme. Now, expatriates are also required to contribute to SNET in Ghana, except he or she contributes to pensions in another country. Yes, it must.
Okay, so if I got you right, any person within the ages of 15 to 45.
Yes, it must.
And who is a Ghanaian.
A Ghanaian.
And a worker.
Sure.
For that matter.
Yes, please.
Qualifies to contribute. And expatriates are also required to contribute because they are also working in Ghana.
Yes, it must.
Okay. All right. So let's move on into, as a payroll expert, what are some of the common issues you come across when it comes to contributions by both employers and employees? What are the common issues that you come across?
Okay, thank you, Amos. Some of the common issues with pensions that we have come across, I have a few here. So we have non-adherence to the minimum monthly contribution to the SNET, I mean. So currently, the minimum monthly contribution to Tier 1 is 45.67. So employers are required to pay a basic salary not less than 338.31. So it means Tier 1, as I mentioned earlier, you have to, that's 338.31 is your basic salary, should be your basic salary to arrive at the minimum contribution of 45.67.
Okay.
We realize that on a contribution report for employers submitted to the SNET Authority for validation monthly, some Tier 1, that is a 13%, yes, that is a 13.5%, are normally less than the 45.67. What happens is that when the system, when this report goes to the system for validation, it's adjusted. So at the end of the day, the total amount or your payment advice is more than the amount you have in your contribution report.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That confirms that some contributions you have on your report is lesser than the required contribution.
All right.
By the SNET Authority.
Okay. So what it means is that during validation, at the minimum, your contribution should be 45.67.
Correct.
Anything below that is not right.
It's not accepted.
It's not accepted.
Yes.
Okay. 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 But before you go on with that, can you give me or give us the breakdown of the contribution, the percentage? I mean, in terms of contribution, what the employer is supposed to contribute and what the employee is also supposed to contribute.
Okay, so I mentioned that the employee contributes 5.5% of his or her monthly basic salary.
Okay.
And the employer adds 13% of the employee's monthly basic salary. So the makeup is 18.5%. Now, out of the total of 18.5%, an employer within 14 days is expected to remit 13.5 to the first tier, that is Tier 1, and then 5% to the second tier. Now, I also mentioned the third tier. I mentioned that it's voluntary. There's no specific amount you are required to contribute to this tier. Now, the happy part of this tier is that the contributor is entitled to a maximum relief of 16.5 of his or her basic salary. That is for the third tier.
Okay, when you say relief, it means that they benefit in taxes.
Yes, please.
Up to 16.5.
16.5%. Yes, please.
So after all, if you contribute, you gain by way of tax relief, yes, as well. Please. Okay. Yes. Okay, that's good.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So you were on the common issues, and then you mentioned the first point being that the contribution should be a minimum of 45.67.
Yes.
And then you can go ahead with that aspect.
Okay, so one other issue we come across on payroll is a non-payment of pension contribution for some category of workers. Now, it's expected that the employer deducts and pays SNIT for all category of workers once employee-employer relationship is established. So let's take casual workers for example. We know casual workers are they are involved in seasonal jobs or intermittent jobs, and then they work for less than 6 months. So
okay.
those category of workers are classified as casual workers. Now, what we realize on payroll is that once these people are on payroll, but since they work for less than 6 months, the employer feels reluctant or fails to deduct SNIT for these category of workers. And once we advise that this is not the right thing to do, once you employ this person, irrespective of the number of months this person will work in your establishment, deduct and then pay SNIT for this person.
Okay.
Yes.
So once there's an establishment of employer-employee relationship, the law requires that a contribution is made.
Sure.
As far as SNIT is concerned. Is it because maybe employers are not aware, that is why they treat casual workers like that, or is just a way to avoid paying contributions?
Okay, so we feel because the duration of work is less than 6 months or is 6 months or less, so employers feel reluctant adding their portion of 13% to their 5.5% to pay like contributions for these category of workers.
But that is not right.
No, it's not right.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so one other issue we've come across is the failure to remit deducted contributions from employee salary to the pension scheme. So per the Pensions Act, it is an offense to fail to deduct, and then also an offense to deduct and not remit to the pension authority. Some reasons given by employers are that the new employees do not have SNIT numbers. Hence, contributions can be made on their behalf until they acquire one. But we would like to advise that employers should insist that employees register and acquire a SNIT number if only they qualify to contribute to SNIT. This is because when there's a payroll audit and per the audit, it is realized that you've deducted and not paid, the employer pays the penalty, not the employees. So we advise that the employers rather insist, just as they insist that they do a medical checkup, they go for criminal reports and all. Okay. They should also insist that they register for their SNIT numbers so that monthly contributions will be made on their behalf.
Very well.
Yes.
So it's imperative on both the employer and the employee to insist or to make sure that they have the SNIT numbers to be able to contribute.
Yes.
So if the employee is reluctant to go through the process of getting one, the employer must insist that you get one.
Yes. Please.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
I would like to also point out that temporal numbers will be given to the employees, the new employee. Maybe if you go to the SNET authority to register. Immediately, just after you fill the form, and then you fill the form and you go through the process, the SNET authority will give you a temporal number immediately to start contribution with, even before the permanent number is given to you.
Okay. So it's instant.
Yes,
you can
please.
get it as soon as you register.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So one other issue we have here is a late submission and payment of contribution. Now, the Act says that the deadline for contribution should not be later than the 14th. So let me use October. We are in October.
Okay.
Now, the deadline for making October contribution is the 14th of November.
Okay.
Yes, so 14th of any other subsequent month, SNET is expected that you should make contribution for all your employees. So payments later than the 14th attracts a penalty. We also have entities not registering with the trustee for Tier 2. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Tier 1 contribution is managed by SNET, and then the Tier 2 is also managed by trustees registered under NPRA.
Okay.
Realize that, yes, Tier 1 is remitted to the SNET authority, but Tier 2, because employees actually don't have trustees, they feel reluctant taking, they don't even know who it should go to. So although it's deducted on payroll, it's not paid, which is also an offense. So we would advise that entities or companies actually chooses a trustee, register with them, so that on monthly basis, their Tier 2 will go to them, and then it will be managed by fund managers who
registered under NPRA.
NPRA, yes, please.
Okay.
Yes. There's also one issue. That's a failure to notify the SNET and the chosen trustees on closure of company or business entity. So what we realize is that when the company goes into when the company don't have employees, maybe they've ceased operations, so there's no longer employees that they would have to contribute SNET for on monthly basis.
Okay.
They don't notify the SNET authority. Meanwhile, we know pensions payments are on monthly basis. So every month, the SNET authority expects that your contributions are being made. But because the seizure of operations, you no longer have employees, so on monthly basis, it won't come.
Okay.
We advise that you rather notify SNET so that they take the company through the correct closure process. Then your file is closed, your account with them is closed. Otherwise, they would assume that you have deducted and you fail to pay. So it would attract a penalty.
Okay, so so what it means is that once you start paying or contributing to SNET as an employer, SNET expects that as long as you exist, you should be contributing to the scheme, okay, for your employees. And for any reason, if you are winding up operations in Ghana particularly, then it is important that you notify SNET that you will no longer be in operation in a particular period or from a particular period.
Exactly.
And therefore, they shouldn't expect anything from you.
Sure.
But if you fail to do that, assuming that SNET should know that you will not contribute, and they should assume that you are not in operation when you know that you are not in operation.
Sure.
Okay, so it's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I think all employers should take note of this, and even the employees as well. When their employers are about to wind up operation, it's important that they sort of remind them to notify SNET so that they don't suffer.
Yes, it must. So the last one we'd like to touch on is the names of employees not matching with the registered names with SNET. So let me use Amos as an example. So yes, so we have Amos Kwame Apia. And then that's the name you registered with. So the arrangement is Amos Kwame Apia. On your SNET card, you have Amos Kwame Apia. But on the contribution report, your employer's contribution report, we have Amos Apia.
Okay.
Missing the Kwame.
Okay.
When this contribution goes to SNET, although the SNET number is unique, the SNET authority is actually looking at both the arrangements of the name and your SNET number. So when you take just Amos Apia to SNET for validation, what they do is they have in the system, they have Amos Kwame Apia, but on your contribution report, you have only Amos Apia. Now, the question is, are the two people the same? So they'll call in, your report is rejected. So it's sent back to the employer to find out whether these two names, these two people are as the same person.
Okay.
This causes a delay. So what happens if the employer comes and then you are not found on your desk? We would have to look for you and all. This causes a delay. And this this might even call for a penalty because there'll be a delay in payment.
Wow. So to help in the validation, the name arrangement is also very important.
Very important.
Though the employee may have a unique ID number, SNET ID number, it's they are also required to arrange their names properly.
Yes, please.
When validating their reports.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I think this is something that employers should be interested in and take note of. Please, as I indicated earlier, you can send in your questions in the Q&A box, and we would attend to those questions at the end of the session. I can see a lot of questions coming in so far, so we will try as much as possible to attend to all of these questions. Okay, so Patience, now as a payroll expert, can you share with us some of the good practices to employ by employers to, stay compliant and avoid penalties and interests?
Okay, Amos. Some good practices would I share is that the basic salary should not be lower than the daily minimum wage currently. So the daily minimum wage now is 12.57.
Okay.
Yes. So it shouldn't actually be lower. That means that you work for 30 days or you work for 27 days. So the daily minimum wage times the 27 days will give you the actual basic salary to pay your employees.
Okay.
Any amount lesser than this, SNET is going to reject it.
Right.
So we would like to also advise that contributions should be made for all category of workers once there's an employee-employer relationship established. Now, contribution should also be remitted to the authorities once it is deducted.
Okay.
And it should be remitted by the 14th or before the 14th
of the month
to avoid any penalty.
Okay. So when you mention it should be remitted to the authorities, you are referring to both SNET office and the trustees.
Yes, please.
All should be made on or before the 14th of the month.
Yes, please.
Okay. Even 15th, you fall into the penalty bracket.
Yes, it's attracts a penalty.
Okay.
Okay, so we'd also like to advise that companies or entities should choose a trustee and register with them so that monthly contributions, that is tier 2, of course, tier 2 contributions will be remitted to them accordingly. So we also advise that employers choose a trustee registered under the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Now, the SNIT authority and trustees should also be notified once there's a non-existence or there's a closure of business or they are no longer employees to contribute tier 1 and 2 for, so that the company will be taken through the correct or the proper closure procedure. And the last one I'd like to talk about has to do with the arrangement of names. So employees' names must conform with the names in the pension system. And then employees must also inform the SNET authority anytime there's a change of their name. Yeah, I think these are the few ones we'd like to share with our listeners.
Right, I know this not the exhausted list. We would have probably more, but these are ones that are critical and we have to draw the attention of both employers and employees. And now we have several questions. Patients, just take a breather and I'll go through the questions. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so patients. Kofi Mensah wants to find out. He said, assuming an expatriate is done with contributions in his or her home country, what happens in this regard? Assuming an expatriate is done with contribution in his or her home country, what happens in this regard? Do you understand the question?
No, please come again.
He wants to know whether if an expatriate is done with contribution in his or her home country, what happens in this regard? You mentioned that the expatriate is required to make contributions here. If they will be exempted, it means that they have to show that they contribute in their home country. Sure. Kofi Mensah wants to find out, what if the person is no more contributing in his or her home country? If I got that correct, then what happens?
Okay. So we'd like to advise that once you are done contributing, that means there's an age limit in your home country that requires that once you hit this age, you no longer contribute.
Okay.
Then you should show proof or take an evidence from your SNET, your pensions provider or that service provider, and then add a cover letter to it, submit to the authority to actually let them know that you are done contributing. Okay. And then they will take it from there. They will advise you what to do.
Okay. Kofi, I hope your question has been answered. An anonymous attendee wants to know, he said, when you say a worker with regards to who qualifies, do you mean all workers? If so, how can workers in the informal sector contribute to these pension schemes?
All right, Amos. So informal sector, assume he or she means maybe an artisan or something. Okay. So pensions contributing, if you're in the informal sector, it's actually voluntary. So you pay yourself. So you go straight to any SNET authority, any branch, register for a SNET number, and then start with any amount that you know consistently you can pay. So voluntarily, you can actually register and contribute every month.
You don't necessarily need to be employed by somebody.
No.
Even if you are doing your own work, you can Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You
That's
can contribute.
that's insightful. So Gideon wants to find out what other alternatives are available for those who cannot contribute to tier 1 due to inability to meet the minimum amount of 45.67. Do you understand the question? He said, what other alternatives are available for those who cannot contribute to the tier 1 due to inability to meet the minimum amount of 45.67?
Okay. If the person is an employee, meaning if the person is employed by any employer, that employer is required by law,
okay,
to actually pay up to the minimum contribution required.
So there's no alternative.
There's no alternative.
So you either pay or you are in default.
Yes.
Okay. So Vanderpoy wants to find out, what if the person is on contract, not an employee?
Okay. So on contract.
Yes.
Is employee-employer relationship established? Okay. What I mean by employee-employer relationship is the employer asks you to come at 8, close at 5. I'll give you everything you need to work with. That means that the employer has asked you to do 1, 2, 3. You take directives from this employer.
Okay.
So what do you mean by on contract? Is it that there's a duration to work? Do you do your own thing? Like, do you don't take directives from anybody?
Okay.
You are being contracted to do this, I'll pay you this, without taking directives from the employer. If so, then it means you can voluntarily. That means you're in the informal sector. You can voluntarily make contributions.
Okay. So it means that when you are a contractor, the employer is not under any obligation to contribute on your behalf. You have to make a decision.
You have to make a decision.
Yeah, because you perform your contract and it ends there. The relationship ends there. Okay. All right. This question is interesting. It said, can an individual have multiple SNAIT numbers or transfer my SNAIT numbers to another person?
It's not possible.
This I can confidently say no. So it's not right. You can't have multiple SNAIT numbers or transfer your number to any other person.
Right.
It's not done. Allswell Jack Pasu wants to know, I want to know about tax relief when you have children. I don't.
No, that's employment taxes.
That's employment taxes.
It's not in relation to SNAIT.
Okay, so Oswell, I'm sorry we are discussing SNAIT. I think we would in future discuss tax reliefs for employers and employees as well. So watch out for that. But in this particular discussion, we are focusing on SNAIT or pensions contribution. Thank you. An anonymous, he said, is an expert supposed to retire before they can claim their pensions?
No. Okay. So for experts, once you decide to leave Ghana permanently, your HR also had to confirm that yes, you would like to leave Ghana permanently. Then you can apply for your claims from the SNAIT authority.
Okay, so yes, you don't necessarily have to retire in Ghana before you can access it.
No.
But there has to be evidence that you are moving out of Ghana and permanently.
Yes.
And you will not come back,
come back
as an employee again.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Evans also said he said, how long can a temporarily SNAIT number be used? How long can a temporary SNAIT number be used?
Once the permanent number once you get the permanent number, there's no need using the temporary number any longer. And that is even given in a month's time. Okay, so
so the temporary number can be used for a month.
Yes, for a month.
Okay, so after a month, you get the permanent number.
Yes.
And yes, the temporary one is no more valid.
Yes, it's no more valid.
Okay. Evans, I hope your question has been answered. Anonymous, he said, what is the difference between casual and contract employees? I think that has been explained earlier, but Patience, would you want to touch on it? He said, what is the difference between casual and contract employees?
So casual workers, their kind of job is seasonal and intermittent. So seasonal, you don't, it's not necessarily you come in every day. As and when
there's job for you
to do,
then you come in to do,
yes,
maybe for a month, 2 months, or 3 months, yes. And when you are done, you leave,
yes, until
the other time that you'll be required to come in.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a casual one. And yes. The contract?
So there's nothing like contracts. We have temporal workers.
Okay.
So temporal is the duration for temporal workers is actually 3 months or less.
Or less.
Yes.
Okay, great. Wow. There are a lot of questions here, interesting ones. Okay, let's listen to this one. I said, if the Income Tax Act classifies some workers as casual workers, why is SNET saying when an employer or employee relationship has been established, Social Security has to be paid? Isn't there a conflict of law? If not, we shouldn't have anything like casual workers. They are all employees. Did you get it?
Yes, I got that.
Okay.
You see, with tax,
that's interesting.
Yes, with tax, how casual workers are taxed is different from how permanent workers are taxed. So that is why they actually classify casual workers. They actually have casual workers and then full-time workers or permanent workers in the Tax Act. But for the Pensions Act, once you're a worker, you're a worker. There's nothing like casual workers or permanent workers.
Okay. Very soon we will be wrapping up our discussion, and we have a lot of questions, and I want to believe that we wouldn't be able to complete all this, answer all these questions, but we would have another session to maybe go further deep into this question. So Edith wants to find out, what can an employee do when his or her employer does not contribute towards their pensions after deducting from their salaries?
Edith, you have to, this is an offense. So you would have to go to your employer, just find out why this is happening. And if you're not getting your desired answer, you can report your employer because it's been deducted from your salary.
It's actually your right. Sure. If it's been deducted and it's not being remitted to SNET, it goes against you.
Yes.
And it's your right. It's your money. So you have to find out why it's not being done.
Yes.
So Edith, I hope you do the needful when such situation comes up. So what happens to an individual who has not reached the retirement age, but is unable to continue working due to a permanent disability? Can he or she claim early retirement? What other conditions are available for someone to claim early retirement on all the different tiers?
So we have invalidity pensions. It means you're not up to 60, but per medical reports, you are not able to work.
Okay.
You can actually write to the authority. You can write to the authority for your claims, and you'll be taken through, they'll show you what to do. You'll be taken through the procedure. Once you meet all these you go through all these procedures, you can claim your benefits.
Okay. So how many years, Richmond Akute wants to find out, how many years after contributions to SNET are you entitled for a benefit? How many years after contribution to SNET are you entitled for a benefit?
Yeah. So you are supposed to contribute for 15 years. That is 180 months.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Oswald is here again. Wants to find out, what are the benefits for contributing to Tier 3? Can one withdraw his or her tier 2, and are there any restrictions?
Tier 2 is tied to your pension, just as tier 1.
Okay.
So tier 1 and 2 is tied to your pensions. Once you cannot claim it until you are 60.
Okay.
Yes. Tier 3 has a benefit. That's a tax relief up to a maximum of 16.5.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you contribute to tier 3, also you are entitled to a relief of up to 16.5
yes,
in
please.
taxes.
Yes.
And for the tier 2, just like the tier 1, you have to get to the retirement age or meet the needed conditions,
yes,
to be able to access the funds afterwards. Okay, this is a comment, I think, from Anonymous. It says, some employers take advantage of the 6 months to put employees on contract temporarily and keep renewing every 6 months to avoid snakes. Shouldn't the law cancel that clause?
So I mentioned earlier that once there's an employee-employer relationship, you have to pay. There's nothing in the Pensions Act like contract worker or temporal worker or permanent worker. Once you're a worker, contributions would have to be made for you. Okay. Now, if you're a contractor, it means maybe a carpenter, the employer has employed you to do this for him. There's nothing like employer-employee. You don't take directives from the employer. So with that, contributions wouldn't be made for you because you are not a worker in that establishment. Okay, great.
Listen to this one, interesting one. It says, so if an individual has multiple jobs and in all jobs, employee-employer relationship has been established, must contribution be done for all these jobs? This is interesting.
Yes. So contributions would have to be done for you.
Okay. For all the jobs.
For all the jobs.
Okay.
So you work here, work here, work here. Once you're a worker, they have to deduct your contributions and pay accordingly.
Great. Mildred Asafubuachi wants to find out, please, can you contribute 20% for tier 3? Can you contribute 20%? 20% of what? I'm not sure, but maybe your salary or basic salary, I guess. So she wants to find out, can you contribute 20% of your salary
to tier 3? Yes, please. You can.
Okay. There are no restrictions.
No.
But you can just enjoy up to 16.5
coming at that, yes.
Relief in taxes. Okay.
So you contribute any amount.
Okay.
So with a 20%, yes. But your maximum relief, the maximum tax relief is 16.5.
Okay. Interesting one. Another one. I said Samuel Mauli. He wants to find out what's the necessary steps to take if my employer is deducting my tier 2 but not remitting to my trustees.
So same as the tier 1, you find out why. If you don't get your desired answer, it's an offense, so you'd have to report it to the authorities.
Right. Thank you very much. The questions have been enormous. They've been coming in left, right, center. And unfortunately, our time is up. And I kindly request you to keep your questions coming in. We will take care of all the questions. We'll address them in our next webinar, possibly. And if not, we would write about them so you can have answers to your questions. But we are grateful for all your questions. They have been very insightful and helpful as well. And the patients, thank you for your time. This webinar is being recorded, will be shared on our YouTube channel and will be posted also on our social media handles, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, and then Twitter handles, so that you can have access to them later on for reference. And wow, these interesting questions coming in. Yeah, as I said, unfortunately, time is not on our side, so we are unable to attend to all questions for now. So thank you very much for joining us. And I believe that you've had a good time, and you would also join us in our subsequent webinar. You can also visit our website, www.scg.com.gh. We have other materials that have been published, and you can access them. Some of them answer your questions. And if you need to send us an email, you can send it to us at info@scg.com.gh, and we would attend to your questions when we receive them. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you in our next webinar. Have a great day. Patience, thank you for your time.